Okay, so the Liberals have finally chosen their leader. We've only known for like 200 years that it would be Mark Carney. Mark Carney ended up taking 86% of the votes. That's more than what Trudeau won in his leadership race. It's more than the share of votes that Pierre Poilievre won in the Conservatives leadership race as well. So it was a pretty hefty win, yeah? So now that it's official, here are 5 reasons Mark Carney should call an election immediately. By immediately, I'm talking even before March 24th when Parliament resumes. Number 1, Mark Carney should call an election in order to get a strong mandate. Look, the only valid reason to call an election right away is to receive the people's mandate. This would allow whoever emerges prime ministers to set about executing for Canadians. It would be weird, honestly. It would be weird to see Mark Carney be prime minister for any significant amount of time without having sought political office in a federal election. Once an election is called, we can say with our votes whose vision for Canada we agree with. That's the romantic reason to call an election. But in reality, they'll call an election when they see they have the best chance of winning, or when they can't legally postpone the election any longer, right? The Canadian electoral system allows you to call an election based on vibes, really. Right? Think about it. When the government feels like the public sentiment is in their favor, they can call a snap election, literally whenever they want. It's partly the reason why I never trust a Canadian politician. So when Justin Trudeau announces high-speed rail or is suddenly crazy charismatic in dealing with Donald Trump, I get hella suspicious there, you know? You can just tell when you're getting buttered up for a snap election. Obviously, we know Justin Trudeau isn't running for prime minister in the next election. He isn't even running to be a member of parliament. Doug Ford, the Ontario Premier, has mastered this art of the snap election. He's won 3 consecutive majorities that way. That man has figured out the Ontario electoral system. Doug Ford also said his latest snap election was to get a strong mandate to fight Trump, no less. Like, I think he's full of shit. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think it was because he knew he had a great chance of winning and extending his time in office. That's why he called the snap election. And it worked out for him, right? He knew he had a good chance of winning, a good enough chance to bet it all on an election, right? Because he already had a majority before this election, right? Speaking of believing they can win, here's the second reason the Liberals might call an election immediately. The polls. Obviously. Like, it feels like everybody's talking about the polls right now. It is no secret at this point that the Liberals are closing the gap on Pierre Poilievre. Depending on which poll you're looking at, you might see that the Liberals are leading by 5 points, like the Echo's poll shows. You might also see that the Conservatives are 13 points in the lead, according to the Leger poll. Whichever one of those polls you choose to believe, I think we all agree that the Liberals are not down 25 points like they were 2 months ago. And this might be the best they can do. This might be the closest they come in the polls. And that's why Mark Carney should call an election as soon as possible. Why not call it before March 24th, before Parliament returns and you get dragged kicking and screaming to the election, right? Speaking of Parliament, here's the third reason. Pierre Poilievre shines in Parliament. Pierre Poilievre's epic callouts in Parliament is partly the reason the Conservatives are in the position they are right now. That is Pierre Poilievre's superpower, in my opinion. He has this ability to articulate what Canadians are feeling. I think the decision by Justin Trudeau to prorogue Parliament has turned out to be a genius move for the Liberal Party. Probably the second best decision he made to help the Liberals avoid slipping into obscurity. Second behind his decision not to run for office. Honestly, I think Justin Trudeau has been a great leader for the Liberals. Many people will argue he has been a terrible prime minister. I'll leave that up to you guys to decide. But as Liberal leader, when you consider the position he met the Liberals, like, think about it. In Stephen Harper's last term, the Liberals were not even the official opposition. They were third, right? While Justin Trudeau is not the person to lead the Liberals forward in the next election, he has left them in a great position. All things considered, right? He has given them a chance. And that's the opportunity that prorogation gave them. Whether you think they suspended democracy or not, it's an opportunity for the Liberals. So I think Mark Carney wants to keep Pierre Poilievre out of Parliament before an election. Worst thing Mark Carney wants is to be sitting in the gallery of the House of Commons because he has no seat. Last thing he wants is to be sitting in the gallery in the House of Commons unable to defend himself while Pierre Poilievre tears him a new one each and every session. Like, Pierre is absolutely relentless with the slogans, with the critiques. There's a reason they do that, by the way. I'm talking about the slogans. Axe the tax, fix the budget. These slogans work. That's why they do it. It's just marketing, right? Outside of parliament, though, Pierre Poilievre has struggled to find sustained attention. A lot of that is because of a certain Donald Trump. No one's heard of that guy before, eh? We'll come back to Trump. I didn't hear many people talking about how Pierre Poilievre isn't doing enough podcasts until recently. There's this obsession now with how many podcasts Pierre Poilievre is doing. Trump obviously created this playbook, right? He did a lot of podcasts in 2024 in the lead up to the US general election. And conservatives here in Canada are convinced that this is the way for Pierre Poilievre to get his message out there. I understand why they're saying it, but I don't know if Pierre Poilievre's problem right now is getting his message out there. Like, I don't even think it is about galvanizing his base to turn out. I think Pierre Poilievre's problem is Trump, essentially. I don't think it's a problem that doing podcasts will solve for him. I think the biggest problem Pierre Poilievre is facing right now is Donald Trump. If the Liberals win the next election, they need to build Donnie a statue. So I think Trump is the fourth reason Mark Carney should call an election right now. At number 4, Trump is the main ballot issue. So while Trump remains the ballot issue, the conservatives will continually find it hard to convey or say anything that anyone wants to listen to. Yes, it is true that 9 years of Justin Trudeau left us in this position, but the genius of the Liberal marketing machine is that they have convinced people that outside of Trump, every other problem is inconsequential. Trump wants to take our country. He wants to take our resources. He wants to take our jobs. Not untrue. The crazy thing is that this narrative basically fell into their lap. It's not even an exaggeration. Like, that is the reality of the Trump world order at this time. So I do not think Trump's second coming has been great for Pierre Poilievre. The man is off to a barn burner in his first month. Like, there is a chance that he will literally burn down the American economy, never mind their place in the world. But you also have to consider that Trump is a media hog. For everything he says about the media and fake news, he just loves being the center of attention. And you can tell too, right? The problem right now is that as long as people are distracted by Trump, they're not talking about affordability in the same way. Like, what is affordability in the face of an existential crisis, right? The other clever thing that the Liberals have done is that they've reversed the name calling on Pierre Poilievre. Where Mark Carney is Trudeau 2.0 and even worse, the Liberals have done a good job casting Pierre Poilievre as mini Trump. It doesn't help that he seems to be proposing many of the same policies, really similar, certainly very similar policies, right? So you might find that Pierre Poilievre will continue to struggle. This is precisely how the Liberals have risen in the polls so far, right? Sure, Trump is doing Trump, but make no mistake, the Liberals have fanned the flames. Here's the fifth reason I think Mark Carney should call an election right away. I think Mark Carney should call an election to prevent Mark Carney from tripping himself up. Mark Carney has been caught with a few inconsistencies here and there in some of the things he said so far. His possible conflicts of interest has obviously been talked about a lot more recently. No thanks to Pierre Poilievre bringing it up all the time. It seems wild to me that he would become prime minister before even having declared his assets. And he can do that legally. I'm not going to lie though. I'm excited to see him debate Pierre Poilievre. I expect Pierre Poilievre to tear him a new one in a debate, but I'd still love to see it. And I'd love for Mark Carney to prove me wrong, okay? I actually liked some of what Mark Carney said in the speech after he was confirmed the winner of the Liberal leadership. There were light jabs at Pierre Poilievre in there. He also kept a message, and essentially that message is we are the party to fight Donald Trump, which is quite interesting that the main ballot issue here in Canada is turning out to be Trump. Here's a few things that worry me about Mark Carney, though. I'm sure he's a brilliant man, but some of what he says comes off a little goofy sometimes. And some of his policies just read like a clever accounting trick instead of being an actual change. So, for example, when he says he will cancel the carbon tax and put it on industries, well, here's the thing, yeah. So increasing the carbon tax on industries increases operating costs for those companies. Okay, so that leaves the industries with two options. A, they can pass that cost onto the consumer, right? Makes things more expensive still for everyday people, right? But B, maybe they'll just close down their company and move to the US. where coincidentally Donald Trump is offering them tax cuts and no tariffs. Look at that. So essentially, it feels like Mark Carney might end up helping Donald Trump to take our jobs. Here's another thing that Mark Carney has said quite often that makes no sense to me. And this is on reducing the government debt and balancing the budget. He has said he will divide the budget into an operational side and an investment side. The operational side, he says he will balance decently quickly. I think he was saying 3 years or something. But he also recognizes that on the investment side, that Canada is in a place right now where we need to invest, we need to build infrastructure and all of that. So he obviously that side is not going to be balanced. He says they're going to invest in order to catalyze private investment. He says a lot of things there. But I'll be honest with you here. Mark Carney isn't balancing shit. He's not balancing the budget. Dividing the budget into two is like saying your left pocket owes money, but your right pocket is debt free. You're still one person, my guy. Having said that, I can tell you, I don't expect people to balance the budget either. I made a video about this, and you can check it out after this. My point here is that you don't have to look too hard to find the jamminess in Mark Carney's policy positions. And if I can see them, and I'm just a guy just here in my house making a video, if I can see them, I know Pierre Poilievre's team is licking their lips right now. Like, they can see all the holes. But to be fair, Pierre Poilievre has his own holes in his policy positions. So there's opportunities there for the Liberals to explore those holes as well, right? The big concern with Mark Carney is that the more he speaks, we may find out that we don't like what the man is saying. It's interesting that several of Justin Trudeau's cabinet ministers are supporting Mark Carney at this time. Over the next few weeks, people might start to question just how different Mark Carney is going to be to Justin Trudeau. Lastly, I just want to say that the CBC has actually talked about the financial reasons why Mark Carney would want to go to an early election. Conservatives have raised a lot of money so far. They've been fundraising for years. They've been in campaign mode for years, right? So they can fund a longer campaign. Mark Carney on his side cannot right now. Right? He really just started. So it may be in the Liberals' best interest to get to the election ASAP, right? Of course, by March 24th, they may not have a choice in the matter. So if the NDP and the Bloc keep their word to bring down the government at the next opportunity, we will have an election as early as April. So maybe it is in the Liberals' best interest to go to the polls on their own terms. Anyways, you guys let me know. If you're a Liberal out there, how do you assess Mark Carney's chances in the next election? And for the Conservatives, are you worried for Pierre Poilievre? I wonder if this will be known as the greatest fumble in election history. I actually don't know the answer to this off the top of my head, but I'm sure someone in the chat will know. What is the greatest election fumble in Canadian election history? Somebody let me know that answer. Pierre Poilievre losing an election right now would be a wild turn of events. It would be wild. Anyways, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe and join the conversation. I'll see you next time. Take care, guys.